Hide your kids, hide your wives, and especially hide your husband, because let's admit it, guys, bodybuilding is a bit gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Because the anabolic chicken is back in full force. If you guys are wondering where the anabolic chicken has been, he has been quite busy with studies and work. But the semester is over now, so as of now, I'll probably be able to pump out at least 4 to 5 videos a week, but we will see, we will see. Anyway, before I left, this comparison was requested by Goat Fitness, I believe, and it is a comparison between 2009 Mr. Olympia Dexter Jackson versus 2009 Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler. Obviously, this is a bit of an apples versus oranges situation because, as for open bodybuilding, Dexter the Blade Jackson is known for having a more aesthetic physique. Meanwhile, Jay Cutler, he's a full-fledged mass monster. Without further ado, let's get straight to this comparison. In the front double biceps, you guys can call me crazy, but I will actually give the edge to Dexter Jackson. I think that his midsection is better and it shows more detail. Obviously, downstairs, Jay Cutler would have an edge throughout this comparison, perhaps except for in the side shots, but we will see that a bit later. But when you look at the arms, of course, you could argue that overall the arms of Mr. Jay Cutler are bigger, but in proportion to his body, I feel like Dexter Jackson has more impressive arms. And when you look at the biceps peak overall and also the tricep sweep, I feel like Dexter Jackson is just as good, if not a bit better than Mr. Jay Cutler. Overall, Dexter Jackson also carves out a better outline, a better V-taper. You guys can call me crazy, of course, but I would give this one to Dexter Jackson. Obviously, the BP oil spill judges, as Louis Marcus would say, are probably going to have a tough time giving any pose to Dexter Jackson because he's just that much smaller than big, massive mass monster Jay Cutler. But this is my channel, and I'm saying that Dexter Blade Jackson won the front of the bicep back at the 2009 Mr. Olympia, so I guess he did. Moving on to the front lat spread, and for someone who has a fairly decent V-taper, Mr. Dexter Jackson absolutely sucks when it comes to the front lat spread. Obviously, he does not suck, but he's an all-time great, so I compare him with other all-time greats. And in comparison to other all-time greats, I feel like Dexter Jackson, of course, along with Phil Heath, he is not the most efficient, not the best when it comes to the front lat spread. Meanwhile, Jay Cutler, even though he has an absolutely huge waistline, he still freaking hits an awesome front lat spread. So he easily takes that pose. When you move on to the side chest, I've heard people say that the side chest of Jay Cutler back in the day in the 2009 Mr. Olympia was actually quite good, but I seem to disagree with that. First of all, he's just twisting too much to the front, so it looks more like a front shot rather than a side shot upstairs. Secondly, I feel like his midsection is sort of sticking out further than his chest. That is not to say that he had a bubble gut. He absolutely never had a bubble gut, but the issue is that he always had an big and sort of wide waistline. So there's that. Meanwhile, Mr. Dexter the Blade Jackson, he's disposed to perfection. And even downstairs, even though Jay Cutler overall has better legs than Dexter the Blade Jackson, either Mr. Dexter Jackson, he's executing it more efficiently, or he just has better quads from the side because those freaking cuts and sort of lines down there are just amazing when it comes to Dexter the Blade Jackson. So I would easily give this pose to Dexter Jackson. When it comes to the side triceps, I think that this is a whole another story. Obviously, I've heard people say that Dexter Jackson, he has no tricep from the side, that it sort of resembles a pancake. I seem to disagree with that, but even though he has better muscle separation, Jay Cutler, he is just that much more muscular, especially when it comes to the triceps, and he also executes this pose to perfection. Heck, guys, even his midsection looks amazing from the side, at least in the side tricep shot. So I do not see any reason why Jay Cutler would not win this pose. Moving on to the back shots, and usually I would say that Dexter Blade Jackson takes the back double against Jay Cutler, but in 2009 he absolutely brought that shredded, dry, grainy look. And Mr. Jay Cutler, obviously in his lower back, he has those wrinkles. He has constantly struggled with that throughout his career, but his upper back, absolutely amazingly dry. His glutes and hamstrings, way better than Mr. The Blade Dexter Jackson, in my opinion. So I do not see any reason why I cannot give this pose to Jay Cutler. But I do not see a reason why I cannot give the back last bit to Dexter Jackson. Obviously, as I said, Jay Cutler, he has an edge when it comes to the downstairs department. But then again, guys, Dexter Jackson does not absolutely suck down there. And upstairs, come on, guys, how many people have you seen that has such an amazing back lat spread? Obviously, Jay Cutler, he's absolutely dwarfing Mr. Dexter Jackson, but size is not everything, even in open bodybuilding. Dexter Jackson, amazing traps, especially when it comes to the upper traps. Jay Cutler, his traps are okay. The lower back of Dexter Jackson, absolutely amazing with that gnarly Christmas tree. Come on, guys, how many guys do you see having a shredded Christmas tree in the back lat spread? Meanwhile, Jay Cutler, his lower back, actually a weakness, not the best. He still has those wrinkles visible even in the back lat spread. So overall, guys, maybe the BP oil spill judges, as Louis Mark used to say, judges would give this to Mr. Jay Cutler because he is just that huge, but the Annabelle Chicken tends to disagree. He will give this one to Mr. Dexter the Blade Jackson. The same goes for the ab and thigh. Obviously, most IPB judges would probably give this one to Jay Cutler. He is insanely dry and shredded, and his quads are absolutely amazing. But then again, guys, if you look upstairs, Jay Cutler, he was criticized throughout his career for looking like a fridge because he has no V-taper, and that is quite evident in this pose. He carves out simply no V-taper, and his midsection looks like an absolute mess. Meanwhile, Dexter Jackson, even though it's quite narrow, he carves out a amazing V-taper in this pose. His quads downstairs, they are not as good as Jay Cutler, obviously, but they are not that bad. But that is one of the best midsections in open bodybuilding history. Everything from his serratus to his abs to his obliques are absolutely tight and perfect and symmetrical. Absolute perfection when it comes to that midsection. Dexter the Blade Jackson, 2009 at least, he hit one of the best abs and thigh in bodybuilding history. Moving on to the final shot, the most muscular. Now, obviously, we have to give this pose to Jay Cutler. He is just huge. He is big. This pose, it was created for mass monsters like him. But then again, guys, we have to give props to Mr. Dexter Jackson. Look at the freaking striations that he has in his delts. Most guys, they do not have those kind of striations anywhere, and Dexter Blade Jackson, he has those striations in his delt, in his chest, basically everywhere. So, an amazing, most muscular, but still, guys, this pose belongs to Jay Cutler, the mass monster. No surprise there. So, who wins this comparison? Well, if it was up to me, I would have no issue giving this to Dexter Blade Jackson. I think that this is by far his best version. But just being real, guys, who would the IPB Pro judges give this one to? I do not see a single argument for not giving it to Mr. Jay Cutler. He was wide in 2009. He was huge in 2009. He was cut. He was shredded. He was grainy, vascular. He just had it all. No weaknesses as well. Usually he was quite weak from the back, but in 2009 he more than held his own from the back. From the side he was good. From the front he was great, etc., etc. Obviously, one could prefer 2009 Dexter Jackson, but that is irrelevant in the IPB. In open bodybuilding, all things being equal, pretty much bigger is better. Dexter Jackson and Jay Cutler were both absolutely shredded in 2009, but one man was taller, wider, and more muscular. that man being Jay Cutler, so obviously we win this comparison quite easily. That was it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my comeback. I love you, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you guys later.